Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lift with your Auntie Sheila. We've got it all here: mental health, movement, motivation, and the best relationship advice around. I'm in a new park, and you know how we like to start. Go ahead and make your wish. Take a minute and make your wish before we jump into this topic, because wishes, dreams, hopes, let me tell you something, they're coming true every single day. Working for all of you, that is a wish of mine, a dream that has absolutely come true. I love these walks. It's an unseasonably warm and crisp winter out here. I mean, honestly, it looks a little bit more like the spring. So it's a blessing to be out here sharing this message with you. Today, what I want to talk about, this is a part three video on arrested development. What no one ever tells you. I'll say again, arrested development. What no one ever tells you is what I'm going to get into today. That is the value of this channel. You know, I really give it to you straight from the practical perspective, the clinical perspective, and nothing would be complete without the spiritual perspective. I encourage you, if you have not given yourself the gift of watching the Arrested Development Part 1 and Part 2, that would be wonderful for some background on this topic. I want to start out with a little refresher. What is arrested development, and what is the piece that no one ever tells you about this situation if you're dealing with it, or if someone you know is dealing in the area of arrested development? And make a long story short, what is it? Arrested development is when the body grows up, all grown up, full-fledged adult in terms of, biology, chronological, the years of the months go by. So you could be 30, 40, in your 50s or in your 60s, but arrested development comes in when the body grows up, but the mind and the emotional maturity does not. And so I want to go deeper into this topic because I received a lot of notes from all of you. And believe me, I read all the notes. I may not have time to answer them all. There's just one of me, and there's a lot going on, but believe you me, I do look at them. And a lot of the notes came in and said, Sheila, I like what you're offering, but I'm in this situation and I'm looking for some practical solutions on how to turn it around. And so if you've been with me for any length of time, tuning into the channel, you know that this work is truly about offering practical solutions. So I want to share a little bit, some more nuggets, and then I'm going to talk about what you can do if you just want to get into the seat of maturity, how you define it. So what is it that no one ever really tells you about arrested development and coming out of it? Here it is. Here's the money shot. No one ever tells you in the books or a lot of the videos about this topic, no one ever mentions straight out that once you make the decision to live as a mature, wise, grounded adult, if that is not where you are, it is going to be uncomfortable at first when you are making these adjustments. Because when you are making the adjustment, I want you to think about this. If you're 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, but emotionally you have been living as a 10-year-old or a 11-year-old, indulging those kinds of logic, those kinds of reactions, it's going to take some doing. Rome was not built in a day. So, all these little tricks and tips that people are talking about, they just don't always want to give it to you straight. And the reality is that change and taking a mature, grounded walk, learning to do that, if that's not what you've been doing for a while, there is some discomfort involved. And then, guess what? Here's the good news. For as much discomfort that is involved, there's something called turning a corner. Just like I'm doing now. I'm turning this corner. And when you turn the corner, things get easier. Let's talk about the joy, the sheer joy of childhood. Let's talk about that for a minute. It's wonderful to be a child, to play on the merry-go-rounds. And I hope you had a good childhood. The ice cream, the frivolity. Some of us growing up, we didn't have that much responsibility. It was a time of great freedom to treasure. And I hope that you always maintain, that curiosity, that innocence that comes along with being a child. We want to hold on to those things. But part of the beauty of growing up and growing older and becoming an adult is this. You have so much more access to the world, access to tools, access to wisdom, access to elevation, access to levels of joy that live inside emotional maturity. And that is a muscle, my friends. That is a muscle that must be worked and cultivated over time. A couple of things that happen when you do step into that seat of maturity. Number one, you're going to make better decisions. And better decisions mean a better life. Number two, and this is something that I really, really love, and I want you to take some time to really think about living this out as a benefit. You gain more emotional control. Think about that. Living with more emotional control. Being less triggered. Not being at the mercy of how people decide to treat you. Not being at the mercy of circumstance. As I call, not being at the mercy of the weather of life, because the weather conditions change all the time. So when you do have that emotional maturity, it's like a built-in umbrella, it's like a life jacket, a beach chair, all in one. So essentially, you are ready for the conditions, whatever they are. You have a ready response because you have cultivated that muscle. So I want you to think about, as you're making the decision to move beyond this arrested development. And in the first and second video, I tell you very clearly, in the first and second video, this is number 3, we know how it happens. We know how it happens. Sometimes a trauma when you're younger and you get stunted right there. Some of us just didn't have the support and guidance. You know, I like to keep it real. That was certainly the case for me. You know, I make these videos. This is not about preaching. If you know me at all, you know that. It's really just about elevation for us all. And let me tell you, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing to be ashamed of if you didn't get everything you needed on the front end. Part of the beauty of maturing, coming of age, you raise your hand and realize, well, doggone it, I didn't get it then, but I can give it to myself now. Okay, so let's get into some more of the mechanics before we say goodbye on this walk. I'm going to share a story with you. A gentleman reached out to me, very candid, and what I love it over the years, I always love it when someone reaches out and they're just to the point where they're not playing games with themselves. It's just like, look, I know, Sheila, I know I got some stuff to work on. I'm just looking for some straight up tools. And he had relayed a story to me. You know, Sheila, I'm in a new relationship, and the young lady said to me, you know, I don't know if I can continue with you because it's like everything triggers you. Everything is a trigger. And so what prompted him to reach out for help was this was yet another relationship. Quite frankly, it went up in smoke, guys. It went up in smoke because it's very difficult to have a loving, connected, supportive relationship with someone who is in a 40-year-old body. It's a 40-year-old body, but they're reacting like an 8 or a 9-year-old. So that's going to show you right there how the stuff keeps blowing up. And if that sounds familiar, you've seen that, or you're dealing with something similar within yourself, please know that this next piece of advice is going to be extremely beneficial for you. When you are talking about solutions and recovery from arrested development, the first thing you have to get very clear on, and you can't play games with this at all, you have to step into full ownership. You know, this is an issue. This is a problem for me. And then step number 2, and you're probably going to need to do this. Ooh, the sun is right in my eyes. You're probably going to need to rock step number 2 firm for a solid 18 to 24 months. Solid. That is, you're going to have to become a very vigilant, hyper vigilant may be a more correct word. You're going to have to start watching yourself, hawking yourself like nobody's business. You are going to become a form of an accountability police for yourself. I'll give you an example. The gentleman that I work with, this is what I said to him. I said, you don't lose control like this with everyone. You've acknowledged that yourself. You're triggered in certain situations. You know, at work, you're able to control yourself pretty well. But when it comes to your personal relationships, you seem to let yourself go. I want you to think about why is it and how is it that you give yourself permission to do that. You are giving yourself a certain level of permission. This stuff is happening fast, and you let yourself go. Part of being a participant observer, you are watching yourself at all times. So you know when those triggers start to rear their ugly heads, I have to discipline myself to stop. I have to discipline myself to stop, walk away, and I would invite you to watch my video. It's called Repurposing Your Triggers. Repurposing your triggers. And you ask yourself, okay, what would the 9-year-old do? The 9-year-old would continue to sit here and pout. That's what the 9-year-old would do. Okay, what would the 42-year-old? What would the 42-year-old do? The 42-year-old would sit with the reality of the discomfort and breathe into the moment. I need to stop because I am taking out my lack of maturity and frustration on someone who does not deserve it. I need to use my tools. This channel is full of tools. You have your emotional freedom technique you can use. You have your reframing. You have your breathing. You're disciplining yourself to go into the tools so that you calm down and you put a clear, concise, emotional response, emotionally mature response together. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke for anyone. As I've said repeatedly, this takes discipline, it takes work, it takes accountability, but I want to give you some more good news. The more disciplined and accountable you become, the easier this work is. Matter of fact, dare I say, you're going to fall in love with this work and this stance of emotional maturity. So to sum everything up, guys, in a nutshell, you just have to own it. You can't play games with yourself. Own it. Don't gaslight. Don't put it on anyone else. Own your deficits. Own your strengths. Own your growth in this lifetime. I'm probably going to do a part 4, a little bit more on Arrested Development, because it's turning into a very hot topic. So until then, I'll see you soon. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe.